Today we're back talking about the Fat Electrician, then we're going to cover some stuff about the Unsubscribed podcast. So we're going to start off with the Fat Electrician because he responded to an Atlantic journalist and completely destroyed them. So our story today starts off with the United States Department of Labor, who posted this meme onto Twitter: America of, by, and for Americans. Patriotism, not globalism. Then they have this meme here, which is a picture of Washington crossing the Delaware with the words patriotism, not globalism written on it. And this obviously upset some people because there's a lot of people on the American left who cannot stand to see anything to do with the founding fathers, who they see as a stain on the country, and they have to downplay all of their acts and achievements. So we had here a response from David Frum to this tweet. Now, David Frum is in fact a writer or journalist at The Atlantic. Now, that's not the most prestigious position out there. Let's just be honest here. The Atlantic does not have the best reputation. In fact, in my opinion, I think that any random small town newspaper is probably going to be more accurate than The Atlantic. But let's not judge too fast, right? Let's at least hear David Frum out. Well, what David said was, "That's an image of General Washington crossing the Delaware to fight the Battle of Trenton, whose chief strategic purpose was to impress the King of France and win the foreign aid that enabled American victory. Why can't we have more historically literate Nazis in this country?" So of course, like everybody on the left who doesn't actually have an argument, he is labeling the Department of Labor of the United States government as a Nazi, which doesn't make a lot of sense. On top of that, he's just completely wrong about everything here except that this is a painting of Washington crossing the Delaware. Obviously, his argument is that putting patriotism, not globalism on this is ironic because what he says is that Washington crossed the Delaware only to impress the King of France. Now that's just blatantly wrong. I don't know where David Frum got a degree in history, but maybe they should revoke it. So if we go here to the Fat Electrician, he actually points out why David Frum is wrong and replies to him, essentially destroying his argument. The Fat Electrician said, "Washington's strategic reason for crossing the Delaware on Christmas was simple. His army's enlistments expired on December 31st. If he didn't deliver a win and restore morale, the Continental Army would literally dissolve within days. The operation had nothing to do with impressing France. At best, that was a downstream effect, not the motive. At no point was Washington thinking, my army is about to quit in 6 days, so I'd better stage a PR stunt for a foreign monarch. If you're going to lecture people about historical literacy, at least Google the most basic facts first." After he posted this, he actually realized who he was responding to, and he added this onto the bottom: "Holy shit, I responded thinking you were just some random. You're a journalist for The Atlantic with like 1 million followers. You're an effing journalist. You can't get the most basic facts right on one of the most documented events of the American Revolution? Effing embarrassing." And he's right. Obviously, David Frum got pretty much everything wrong, but I will say that the Fat Electrician is expecting a little bit too much from a journalist from The Atlantic. Let's just be honest, I'm impressed that David Frum can read. If you've ever tried to read anything at The Atlantic, you have to be like fully indoctrinated into the left-wing culture to actually believe anything they print, at least in my opinion. It's not exactly the most prestigious place to write for. In fact, I would say that it doesn't even classify as a mainstream media source, and that's saying something because the mainstream media sources aren't doing very well these days anyway. Now, what I want to point out is that what we have here is a difference between the two types of Americans, right? You have the patriotic, right-wing, actually knows what they're talking about American, and the unpatriotic, globalist American. So David Frum saying this, he might actually believe this, and that's because people like this, people on the left, they don't see the world the same way that right-wing people do. So where the Fat Electrician, being a more conservative person, understands the ideas of patriotism, understands the ideas of fighting for your country, understands risking it all in order to provide a better future, people on the left, globalists, they don't see that. They can only see things as transactions. They only see the benefit that comes to the individual person, and the only reason that you would do something is for that benefit. So where Washington, when he crossed the Delaware, was doing it for a future, right? He was doing it for America in order so that his army would have a win and that people would continue to fight for him and that his war would not end in failure. What David Frum saw, instead of patriotism and the willingness to fight on against unsurmountable odds and protect what you're fighting for, is David saw a quid pro quo. He looks at Washington crossing the Delaware and he sees that as Washington doing something to impress the king of a foreign nation in order to get the support of that foreign nation. Now, he's wrong, but the reason he sees it that way is because people like this can only see things through a certain lens, whereas people on the right, more conservative people, haven't forgotten about history, right? And they also haven't forgotten about the base things inside humanity. People on the left have kind of forgotten about bravery. They've lived such cushy lives that they can't imagine being in Washington's shoes. They can't imagine needing to get a win so that your army doesn't fall apart. All they can imagine is, oh, I'm trying to impress this guy across the ocean. Which, by the way, if he even thought about it for like 3 seconds, he'd know this is wrong, because it took weeks or months for word to get from the Americas to France. France was going to support George Washington and his armies in America because obviously they hated the British. That's why they helped us to begin with. It's just stupid for David to think that this would even do anything to actually benefit the relationships between George Washington and France, because obviously France wouldn't hear about it for months afterwards, at which point the armies would be dissolved had Washington not done this. Just another journalist who has no idea what they're talking about. Quite frankly though, I don't think that's super surprising, as journalism has become one of the least prestigious things anyone can do. Pretending to be a journalist and working for a big company makes no sense. Anybody who works for an actual publisher, right? If you work for a news organization, unless you're the guy on air, like on the TV, hosting the daily news, there's no reason for you to work at a mainstream media place. If you want to be a journalist, you can do it all yourself. You can make more money doing that, right? You could be an investigative journalist, have a YouTube channel, and be more successful than 90% of the people who work at these newspapers or on the TV networks. It's mind-boggling to me that people still think being a professional journalist is something that you should respect. Stopping myself from going on a bigger rant about how much I dislike the state of modern journalism, let's take a look at the Unsubscribed podcast responding to Theo Von. Theo Von said, "What are we paying taxes for?" The Unsubscribed podcast responded, "Somali daycares, obviously." I just thought that was funny, wanted to throw it in. The actual news I wanted to talk about from the Unsubscribed podcast was this response here. So Elon Musk had retweeted this thing here, talking about how Elon Musk is going all in funding Republicans to help President Trump take back full control in the November midterms. Now, this is surprising because obviously Elon Musk and Trump had a big falling out a couple months ago. They've seemed to have repaired the relationship, whatever. Elon said, "America is toast if the radical left wins. They will open the floodgates to illegal immigration and fraud. Won't be America anymore." To that, somebody actually responded and said, "Elon, will you go on the Unsubscribed podcast in San Antonio and meet the AK guy, Brandon Herrera, who's currently running in Texas District 23? We need some good ones, not a bunch of slugs." To which the Unsubscribed podcast said, "Let's do it." Now, I don't think this is super realistic and going to happen. I don't know that Elon Musk is going to actually go on the Unsubscribed podcast, but that would be insane. I'd support it. And the reason I'm mentioning it now is because I kind of want to put that out into the world. So if anybody watching knows Elon Musk and wants to get him on the Unsubscribed podcast, I'd like to watch that, and I'm sure you would too, so let's make it happen. I do think it would be a good thing because I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to my videos about the Brandon Herrera race. However, Trump recently endorsed Brandon's opponent in the race, which is not good. Obviously, Trump had to do it because there's some backroom deal saying, "Oh, endorse me and I'll vote for you on this." That's the only thing that makes sense. I mean, I can't prove that there was a backroom deal, but it doesn't make sense otherwise, so it's my opinion. But getting actual national eyes on Brandon's campaign and hopefully unseating the incumbent and putting Brandon into Congress would be pretty good, and having Elon Musk help him out would be a great thing. So I hope Brandon's team is reaching out to Elon and trying to get him on the podcast, or at the very least trying to get him to have a conversation with Brandon, because I think that would be great if Brandon could get actual funding from somebody like Elon, where his opponent is obviously receiving a lot of funding and a lot of help from the Republican Party. As last time, Brandon almost won, but he didn't, and part of the reason that he did not win in the last election, even though he came very close, it was just a couple hundred votes, was presumably because of the money that his opponent had gotten from big Republican donors and the Republican Party, which allowed him to put out more ads and everything that Brandon had. So I think it'd be great if Brandon got some support from Elon. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I just wanted to put it out into the world. What do you guys think? Can you believe that journalists just have no idea what they're talking about? Actually, I probably shouldn't even ask that question because I don't think anybody believes they know what they're talking about. Are you glad to see the Fat Electrician correcting journalists? And do you think that Elon Musk should go on the Unsubscribed podcast? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. Remember to like and subscribe. Oh, and if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to check out some of my other videos, which should be on screen now. The one on the right is the one that I think you'll probably enjoy. It's a little different than what I'm covering in this video, but give it a look if you want to. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and God bless you.